fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive!
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god! God, what?
The exciting circus that is OZICAR Formula V rolls on to Okayama short for round 4 of 6 in this short, sharp, but incredibly exciting championship. We're delighted to be bringing it all to you here tonight on SimSpeed TV. OZICAR Formula V is brought to you by Simfinity and the Locked On iRacing podcast, Prestige, Trophy Badge and Engraving, and 24/7 Race Control. And wow, almost all of that might be needed tonight as David Haynes here is joined by Reese Gardner. Reese, amazing action all season long at some of the short and twisty and compact and club spec tracks we've been going to. Tsukuba a week ago was amazing, but here it feels even shorter because we're kind of used to the Formula One Grand Prix layout here, but as this map is going to show us, the short layout is quite short indeed, and that is going to give us some really close racing with 35 drivers on the grid.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this one. Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoy the show tonight, and what a show it is going to be. Here is Okayama International Circuit, built in the early 1990s, and of course hosting the Formula One Pacific Grand Prix in 94 and 95. And that is the short layout. There's only 2 left-handers on this layout. All the rest of them are right-handers, which means that there's going to be an awful lot of wear going on through those left side tires. But that's not going to be too much of a problem in race 2, at least in terms of the fronts, because we do have a mandatory pit stop in race 2 for 2 front tires. However, it does mean that the already lively rear end might get a little more lively through those right-hand corners. But either way, this track, incredibly short, lap times just over a minute in length here, and as we're about to go into the first 15-minute race of the night, this is how the grid looks.
Yep, Cam Dance clean swept last round, and that has gone well for him, and he's continued the form to grab pole position here for race number 1. There will be qualifying again for race number 2, so no guarantees on that one, but he's certainly off to a great start tonight. Sharing that front row with Mitch Dean will, of course, be a staggered standing start tonight. And Lee Partridge, Chris Noble, Daniel Hederscheid, and Sean McKenzie are our top 6. McKenzie's definitely up there in the championship hunt. Mikey Harland is then going to start out of 7th, in front of John Schultz, in front of Alex McKellar, also in the top 3 in the championship hunt. Interesting to see him starting a little deeper in the field there for race 1, alongside Kirk Broadhurst and then Dennis Hancock and Stafford Marsland for the top 3rd of the field.
Indeed, we'll go through the championship standings in detail between races 1 and 2 here. Ryan Jones starts from lucky 13th position, with Aidan Schultz and Theo Taylor rounding out the top 15. Nathan Verney and Sean Doyle joining each other behind them. Doyle sharing row 9 with Michael Greed. Top 18 rounded out there with Russ Green and Jackie Chalmers rounding out the top 20. Ray Oliver and Jeremy Bush starting 21st and 22nd. Callum Heinrich and Nick Skariev round out positions 23 and 24.
Bringing home the rest of the field is Rick Berger, Vic Bent-Veltzen, Max Donnelly, Mick Taylor, Ira Felberg, Leon Williams, Cameron Cousins, Paul Ward, Sean Carey, Matthew Joy, and Paul Jackson. And of course, as always, Race Control watching over everyone to make sure this amazingly talented, stacked, and numerous grid, what an amazing sight they are, lined up in OZICAR Formula V, ready to get going for the first 15-minute race. Race Control will be watching them, but for the race start, the lights come on. Cam Dance there has the racing line, has pole position. You see the smoke from these air-cooled engines as they rev, and not a great jump from third place Lee Partridge, he goes backwards, but for Cam Dance and Mitch Dean, great start as they come through turn 1. Always going to be a challenge, 2 wide, 3 wide and more through the first right-hander, and then not the Grand Prix layout, it's into the short chute on the right-hander to bring us continuing on the short layout. Great battling side by side for third there, but it is letting our front 2 check out early.
Absolutely is. They run line astern, do Dance and Dean, but it's Hedderscheid, Partridge, McKenzie, Noble and Schultz all involved now in the battle for third place, and Hedderscheid and Partridge have gone side by side for pretty much a whole lap as it stands, but there's Lee Partridge having to yield there to Daniel Hedderscheid. McKenzie isn't going to have good enough of a run there to get the pass done at the final turn as the majority of the drivers fall into single file. Some battling further back in the pack between Skariev, Bush and Donnelly for some of the minor positions, but largely it looks like a clean start for most drivers. We do have a few stragglers though. Sean Doyle falling far behind, Paul Ward and Sean Carey also going for spins, and Ira Felberg only just recovering on the back straight.
Yeah, towards the tail end of the field, and that suspension is not in good shape at all for Felberg. He's probably going to have to put that one on the tow truck. We saw a couple other drivers who had to tow as well, and I think that is going to continue.
Yeah, Mikey Harlan just recovering there, and unfortunately that's caused Nick Skariev to spin with that recovery there, the re-entry onto the racing line. So there's been a bit of chaos there at the opening turns, but the field is continuing through the double hairpin to end off the lap. This is a great place to try and get passes done as Sean McKenzie now has a bit of a run on Lee Partridge. These guys battling within the top 5 positions in the championship, so any mistake they make now is really going to affect them further on down the line. Daniel Hedderscheid has managed to get away from them somewhat. You see him there in the pink 111 eSports car, but Cameron Dance and Mitch Dean up ahead, continuing to keep each other honest in the top 2. Almost trying up the inside there was McKenzie, but now looks like Chris Noble's trying to have a go at John Schultz.
Certainly is. Schultz in the Milo car is going to hold the inside for the double right-hander, but you can't track all the way out at the second apex because that'll compromise you then at this left-hander coming onto the little straight here that wouldn't be an overtaking opportunity in any car other than a Formula V. But these cars can race wheel to wheel and can overtake anywhere. So it seems that, there is a mistake. Too much throttle, not enough throttle, too much brake. What was it? That has spun around, and catch who that would be. Lee Partridge, right. Remember, from third on the grid, didn't get a great getaway there, and it's kind of continued. Lee Partridge now finds himself down in 20th from third on the grid in this race.
That's a big shame there for Lee. We'll get a quick virtual racing school replay of that one, see what went wrong for him. Taking the tight line into the hairpin, very narrow turn in just behind, but just looped it coming over the curb, and it's very easy to do in these Formula Vs. Something similar seems to have happened to Nick Skariev here. Check out what's gone wrong for the Buzzing Hornet coming through here. That's a recovering car just up ahead, and looks like they might have come together here for the second last turn perhaps. No, it seems all right on that front. Not too sure what's going on for Skariev there. But here we go. Oh, goodness me. We stay on the replay because Alex McKellar, the championship leader, has been taken out in a massive crash there down the front straight. It looks like Chris Noble's been involved in that.
Yeah, was there 2 wide? Was there 3 wide? We've seen time and time again when the wheels tangle on these cars, they are super exposed. This is another replay. Look at one of the Locked On Lads cars. And a little technical problem picking up the correct replay there. But for Alex McKellar, this is devastating. He's dropped all the way to the back when he just needed to keep scoring those consecutive and consistent results. His main rival, Cam Dance, is leading this one.
Yeah, that wheel-to-wheel contact really setting Alex McKellar's night off to a bad start. Here it is on the replay again. Looks like Noble just moved to the left just a little bit. They banged wheels, and McKellar didn't move to the left to try and give a bit more space as well. So not too sure who to blame for that incident. Maybe it is blameless. Just a slight jerk to the left-hand side is all it takes to really send you a cropper in these Formula Vs. But Cameron Dance and Mitch Dean continue to fight here up the front as we're now back to live pictures, and all the way almost into the gravel trap goes Mitch Dean. He's trying his best here to get a run on Cameron Dance, and you get a whisper of a slipstream down the front stretch here at Okayama. You see the momentum there for Mitch Dean, but he just doesn't gain enough on Dance to have a go into turn one.
No, definitely doesn't seem like it. Might be something to do with that shift from third gear into fourth gear. Different drivers take that shift at different times. It's a weird shape of power band for these engines. Some drivers seem to find speed shifting a bit early compared to revving it all the way out. Mitch Dean does have, at least to his credit, the fastest lap of the race at the moment, and is sailing away from third place along with Cam Dance. Plenty of racing in other places. This is 12th and 13th. Kirk Broadhurst side by side with Mikey Harland. Harland trying to recover a bit as well. Gets down the inside at that left-hander hairpin and then is able to park it for the right-hander that immediately follows.
Yeah, and Lee Partridge is right in this with them as well. Kirk Broadhurst having to defend from him there as Partridge goes round the outside of the penultimate corner, loses a bit of momentum. Oh, that might have been a little whisper of contact between Partridge and Broadhurst. It's fantastic racing between these guys at the moment, and it looks like Partridge has the run, especially with that upshift from Kirk Broadhurst. But Mitch Dean going for the lead on Cam Dance in the second turn. Can he get it done? Yes, Cameron Dance has to yield.
Yeah, amazing. Now, side by side at the exit of one, coming into turn two, Mitch Dean has just held that inside, and he has come away with the lead of the race. Took him a couple laps of, I think, knocking at the door there, but he leads now, and they still have a lot of time in hand. They can do this for a little bit, but definitely Cam Dance isn't one to get tangled up in any nonsense here, particularly if he's aware of the issues for Mitch Dean. So Cam Dance back into second, but the same way that Mitch Dean got the lead, Cam Dance could take it back. He's one of your other top three in the championship, Sean McKenzie, lining up on Ryan Jones. So much smoke there off the back of the car from Ryan Jones, and a very early, very preemptive defensive move. Not sure it was even necessary for Sean McKenzie to have an attack there. We are going to see Theo Taylor on the replay here, and he hooks a bit of that curb and then into the right hander. Oh, that is not a quality rejoin. That's got to be Marky Harland, because that looked like
Broadhurst as well.
Yes, Broadhurst spun there.
Oh, goodness. What on earth has gone on there? So, looks like Broadhurst getting into Harland, coming into the right-hander, and Harland tried to get going, but, oh, man, I think race control's going to take a look at that, because, yeah, that's it's not the kind of rejoin that you want to see.
No, certainly not. This live at the lead, Mitch Dean, but how much longer? Cam Dance to the inside for turn one. Looked like he had plenty of speed as well. Puts the car where you want to stamp your mark on that move. Over under potentially from Mitch Dean, though, looking to the inside of turn two, and has just done enough to deserve a bit of space for the double right-handers, but then floats into a left-hander. Cam Dance going to try to hold on to this one. Next corner also a left-hander. This is pretty aggressive stuff at the halfway point of race number one.
Yeah, well, they can afford to be this aggressive. They got a good gap back to Daniel Hederscheid as Dance tries going for the move at the left-hand hairpin. Dean, though, has the inside for the right-hand hairpin, and around they go, and he is ahead of Cameron Dance now. But for how long? Have a look at the momentum Dance gets around the outside, just able to carry a little bit more momentum using that wider outside line. So now, down the front stretch, this is how it's going to work out. Going to make it 6 laps to go, and they're going to cross the line side by side.
Tell me if you've got your reading glasses on, but the way I see it, that car of Cam Dance looks like the nose is sitting a little bit lower than Mitch Dean. I think there might be a difference there potentially in the attitude. That's what the back and the gearbox looks like from Mitch Dean as Cam Dance holds on to the lead. They have been caught a little bit by Daniel Hederscheid, but Hederscheid's been caught by Schultz. They were battling for third and fourth, and we also saw McKenzie and Jones going at it. So it's 2 by 2 by 2 here at Okayama in some of our top positions. And again, defense from Ryan Jones against Mackenzie here, who tries to go around the outside at the first hairpin, get to the inside for the second hairpin. That's a move you don't see happen all that often, but Mackenzie has done it really well.
Yeah, he certainly has, and side by side through the penultimate corner, Ryan Jones is going to try and hold on to this. He's going to have a bit more momentum through here, and Jess just moves ahead once again of Sean Mackenzie through the corner, but Mackenzie now going to have a bit of a draft here and a run into the first corner, and as he pulls out to make this move, let's see how it goes for him. Very short braking distances in these Formula Vs, and it looks like Jones just yielding to him there, trying to go for a bit of an over-under at the double right-hander, but he's not close enough to make a maneuver. Ultimately has to yield, and I've just checked Dean and Dance's cars, and it looks like Cam Dance is running the front right height a little bit lower.
What a curious little thing, and I got to imagine that's not going to affect the aerodynamics at all, but could just affect how the cars behave, and with the weight transfer through the corners and on the throttle, maybe we'll start to see a difference in how their cars behave, how deep they can throw it into the corner, and what the rotation is like. Interesting to see that as a difference. Not a lot to separate in some of these battles here through the final sector off the final corner, where you want to run all the way across that green, but you don't want to touch the gravel. How many lights on the dash before we shift gear for Nathan Verney? It looked like 3 or 4. Now he's looking to the outside of turn 1, and unless he can do the over-under like Mitch Dean could, then I don't think that's going to work for him in trying to grab that position away.
Michael Greed, though, giving him the car's width of room on the outside that he is entitled to, and defending very nicely through the double right-hander, but ultimately it's a slightly better exit here for Nathan Verney. He's not going to take advantage of it, though, or is he? Michael Greed going in a bit too hot and letting the rear go. So into the gravel trap, and looks like he's going to rejoin safely enough with no cars around him. Oh yeah, Cameron Dance back into the lead. So Mitch Dean and Cam Dance with 3 to go when they cross the line. This is going to go right to the liners. My goodness, in the background there. Oh.
Jones and Mackenzie were battling, and Jones has gone backwards into the gravel trap at the final corner. Has he had it on the grass on turn-in? Has he been hit from behind? The answer is... It's just been straight up tagged, and Mackenzie hasn't even been close to making that corner either by the look of it.
Yeah, went in way too hard there, did Sean Mackenzie. I'm not too sure what was going on there, but either way, Ryan Jones is not going to be a very happy camper at the moment. But the leaders, looks like the race is going to go to time certain now with 1 minute and 50 seconds on the clock, and that means that there should be 2 laps to go when they cross the line next. So Dean back into the lead. Can Cameron Dance get this back? Certainly showing that the racing here at Okayama is defined by the speed down the straights, and it looks like Mitch Dean was Cameron Dance a little bit earlier into 4th gear. It's given him a bit of extra momentum down the straight in the draft of Mitch Dean, and unfortunately not able to take advantage, as that's a move for 3rd. That's John Schultz into the podium.
Yeah, from 8th on the grid now, 15-minute sprint race. He's picked off a couple spots. That's so aggressive, and it's around, and the 3rd place that he's worked so hard for evaporates before his eyes in a puff of smoke.
Oh, that's a big shame there for John. Well, he's still maintaining 4th. He's got a reasonable gap to Aiden Schultz if he doesn't make another mistake, as Mitch Dean and Cam Dance continue to fight here. They're coming up on some lap traffic, which might be an issue. Callum Heinrich in the number 18 with them here, and Heinrich being very sedate through the last turns just lets them go between the second last and last turns. So play on, boys, and this is going to be the final lap. This could be the move that defines the race, and Mitch Dean going defensive very much, jerking to the inside, jerking to the outside. Cameron Dance alongside into turn 1. Mitch Dean might have been able to hold on to that, but can he go for the over-under here into the double right-hander? Yes, he can. He's got his car almost alongside Dance's, but Cam goes a little bit harder into the doubles, and they leave each other space. Clean racing here for the lead until that point. Mitch Dean, side-by-side contact, and looked like there might have been a bit of latency involved in that.
You feel for both of them because I don't think Cam Dance did anything wrong, and poor Mitch Dean has lost out a bunch of time trying to race for the lead there, and he's all the way back into 5th now. Cam Dance looking untroubled for the lead, but then it's kicking off for some of those positions behind. Just 2 more corners for Dance to create a 3-race winning streak from 2 last week to 1 more race win in the first of 2 races tonight. That's another win for Cam Dance. He's going to take the championship lead away from McKellar. Daniel Hederscheid is going to get 2nd, and John Schultz is going to end up back on the podium.
Good stuff there, as that's a very close finish there between Dennis Hancock and Sean McKenzie. That was only 300ths, no, maybe even 200ths of a second between the two of them. Very close racing on the final lap as we have more drivers crossing the line. There's Jones, Broadhurst, between Doyle and Scarriev, a proper drag race. Who finishes ahead in that one? It looks like Sean Doyle just beating him out there by, again, just under 300ths of a second. So apart from the incidents that we've seen, that was a very good race, David. I'm looking forward to race 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short, sharp lap, and it's got some good speed down the pit straight, and I loved seeing that over-under through turn 1 from Mitch Dean. Showed us that there was more to it than just sticking your car to the inside and that job's done. There were some different lines, some different strategies at play, but Cam Dance, he got a bit lucky, but he also qualified it on pole. He was at the pointy end all race long, so he gets another win in OZICAR Formula Vee Series. Daniel Hederscheid 2nd, John Schultz completing the podium, and they always end up next to each other. Some law of attraction, magnetism. The other Schultz immediately behind in 4th, then Mitch Dean, Dennis Hancock, Sean McKenzie, and Nathan Verney. Those 3 in a 3-wide drag race across the line that Mitch Dean managed to win. Nathan Verney not far behind, then Stafford Marsland and Lee Partridge rounding out the top 10.
Lee Partridge, of course, starting 3rd. He won't be too happy with that result. It was a good recovery, though. Michael Greed and Russ Green, 11th and 12th. Ryan Jones ends up finishing where he started after running as high as 7th at one point. Kirk Broadhurst slipped backwards, started 10th, finished 14th. But then we get to Max Donnelly, who was a really big mover in the field. Started 27th, ends up 15th in the end. Jeremy Bush as well, making up some good positions. Sean Doyle and Nick Scarriev crossing the line side by side too, with Vic Bentvilsen and Paul Jackson rounding out the top 20. Jackson making up 15 positions there.
Some tales of woe potentially, but further back, Mick Taylor, Rick Berger, Leon Williams, Matthew Joy, and Paul Ward, the last car on the lead lap. Sean Carey finished 1 lap off, but then it's big damage or retirements or repairs for Jackie Chalmers, Ira Felberg, Mikey Harland, Theo Taylor. In fact, we definitely saw the incident for Ira Felberg and for Mikey Harland, and then Callum Heinrich, Chris Noble, Alex McKellar. We saw his unfortunate incident. That is a big loss of points for McKellar, and then Ray Oliver, Cameron Cousins, our 35 drivers in race 1. Well, that left us a little short of breath, and hopefully race 2 won't disappoint either when they race for 30 minutes with a required pit stop around a track where the traffic is going to be intense with 60-second lap times and 35 drivers on the track. Don't go too far because race 2 is coming up of OZICAR Formula Vee here on SimSpeed TV. We'll be back in a couple minutes with coverage of that.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year, but the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker, especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs, any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Well, we are back, so hello again, one and all, to OZICAR Formula V. More than 30 drivers still going to line up for race 2 tonight. They have to do qualifying again, though, in the one-lap shootout format. And that could mean anyone could start within the top 10 of the grid, and some of our Race 1 heroes might find themselves with a little mistake ending up all the way at the back of the grid. Then add in the strategy element that is going to be required, a pit stop in this 30-minute race somewhere in the compulsory pit stop window from lap 2 to about lap 28 or something, I would think. In that window, some drivers might go early, some might go late. The winning strategy has actually been all over the place recently, but the winning strategy in the points until race 1 was Alex McKellar. This is the standings after round 3, not including race 1. McKellar had a slim lead over Dance and then a little bit over Sean McKenzie. But Reese Gardner, that is definitely gone a little pear-shaped for McKellar.
Absolutely has. He's probably going to fall down quite the amount in the points, probably down into the lower reaches of the top 10, but remains to be seen until the actual points come out after tonight's racing is concluded. I tell you what, Lee Partridge and Sean McKenzie are certainly going to be a bit disappointed there with the results that they got. They finished in the lower reaches of the top 10 in race 1 as well. So they'll be missing out on some good points there. Certainly pretty much advantage Cameron Dance at the moment. But the drivers are in qualifying at the moment. And they all each get one lap here to set their grid spot for race 2. And it looks like the track's a little bit cooler here, or at least there's a little bit more cloud. That's, whoa, hang on a minute. That's one driver coming a cropper. That's Max Donnelly, who is streaming his races live on Twitch. That might have been a little bit of an embarrassing moment. His chat's probably going off right now.
Potentially, but that's the nature of this one-shot, one-lap shootout style of qualifying. If you want to put it on pole, you've got to put it all on the line for one lap. But you only get one lap, so a millimeter out of line, and that is what could be happening to you. Watching Ray Oliver, that's kind of millimeter perfect through the final sector. So let's see how this one lines up. Looking for something just over a minute. And as the times begin to hit our board on the left-hand side, 1 minute 1.9 certainly looks respectable, but here comes a lot of other times. Greed, McKenzie, Skariev, Taylor, Harland, Partridge to the top, 1 minute 1.2 at the moment. Still a lot of drivers out there waiting on putting their time in.
Looks like Alex McKellar going to P3 and Chris Noble going to P1 there. 101.1. Very good stuff there from Chris. Certainly making himself known here at Okayama. Cameron Cousins in the number 27. He didn't have a very good race in race 1. Let's see if he improves on it here. It looks like that's either the start of a lap or an invalidated lap. It's a 102.299 for him there. That's putting him P17 as it stands at the moment. And drivers taking the opportunity here to practice the pit entry, which is going to be interesting, David, because the track has a speed limit sign, but it's way before the actual speed limit cones come in as Cameron Dance into the 1 minutes there.
Yeah, there you go. He's saved up his candies till right at the end of the session, going out a little bit later than some others, and then stuck it to pole position for the moment. And there's only a handful of drivers yet to place a time that could displace him. Leon Williams, one of them, and he is going to lodge 1 minute 2.7, but he might be actually hanging out there doing a couple more laps. One person I did see practicing that pit entry and getting it wrong was Vic Bent Veltson. He ended up sideways in the pit entry a minute or so ago, so he was definitely absolutely using the end of this qualifying session to test the limits of pit entry. He's found them, and he's going to know in the race that he needs to bring it back a little bit. Kirk Broadhurst, a little bit of an incident in race 1 that maybe precluded him from finishing on the podium like he might like to have. It's going to put that P6 with a minute 1.4.
Pretty good there for Kirk. He's going some way towards making good on his race 1 promises, but with qualifying over and no driver now going to be setting another time, it looks like we've got another starting grid. Cameron Dance and Chris Noble are going to be on the front row for this one. Lee Partridge and Dennis Hancock, top 4, with Alex McKellar and Kirk Broadhurst 5th and 6th. It's Nathan Verney and Michael Greed, along with John Schultz and Sean McKenzie, who round out the top 10. So all of our usual championship contenders in that one, with the top third of the field rounded out by Mikey Harland and Theo Taylor.
And Nick Skariev and Ryan Jones, two SimSpeed boys, sharing that row 7. Although maybe Skariev is more regular than Jones these days. Got Ray Oliver, we've got Russ Green, got Jackie Chalmers, hoping for a good result after what amounted to a DNF in race 1. We'll see how clean the race start is in this one. And then you've got Jeremy Bush for the right-hand side of row 9. Ira Felberg, Cameron Cousins, Rick Berger, Vic Bent Veltson, Mick Taylor, and Callum Heinrich is the top 24.
Leon Williams started 30th in race 1. He's gone a lot better this time, starting in 25th with Paul Ward alongside him. Sean Carey and Matthew Joy 27th and 28th, with the top 30 rounded out by Daniel Hederscheid and Paul Jackson, the last 2 cars to set times. And then we've got Doyle, Dean not getting a time in qualifying. That's going to be interesting for him, with Max Donnelly, Stafford Marsland and Aidan Schultz rounding out the 35 cars, with Mitch Dean starting so far down. Goodness me, it's going to be a challenge for him to try and make his way up the field. He's going to be counting on the pit stop.
I had a look at the drivers without a qualifying time, and of course Mitch Dean stood out to me, but so too Daniel Hederscheid, finishing in the top 5 in race 1 there. He's also one of the drivers that didn't manage a qualifying time, and from what I saw, they left pit lane and just somehow managed not to bag a time. Did they run out of time? Did they make a mistake? Was it something not to their liking? But they are going to start all the way up the back, while Cam Dance in prime position for another clean sweep. He's going to rev. He's going to get ready to launch from the pole position. Should be the grippy side of the track on the left there.
It's wow. That was a great launch there for Cameron Dance, but not so for Chris Noble. He's fallen down to 4th as they make their way in towards the first turn. So Dance unchallenged, Partridge into 2nd, Hancock into 3rd, and 4th now Alex McKellar. Let's hope for his sake, for his championship's sake, that he has a bit of a better run here as John Schultz now side by side with Sean McKenzie.
A lot of side-by-side battling back in the pack, and Matthew Joy, I think, has managed to find the barrier, but no one else has collected him, and they've gone a little bit further without car-to-car contact in this one than they did in race 1. Scariev, you can see there, trying to go around the outside of the hairpin to give him the inside for the next one. He's just one of the cars battling side-by-side so far. Bit out of shape there for the 27, but gathering it back up again there, and a lot of curb for Scariev as he's now starting to box some of these drivers up behind him, and it is 1 lap complete. And look who's on the pit lane, Dennis Hancock. But is he the only driver to make that choice? He's not. Vic Bent-Veltzen, Daniel Hedderscheid, Sean Doyle, Stafford Marsland also in, and Callum Heinrich in a very difficult position. I think there's damage on that car if he can't get it turned around easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Front wheels aren't pointing the same way.
No, it looks like it's crabbing a little bit. We'll get a virtual racing school replay and see what happened to Mr. Heinrich here. 2x2 coming into the last turn. There was contact just behind Heinrich there, making his way out, and then, oh, that was contact on the exit of the corner. I'm not sure who that was with, but ended up taking out another car as well in the lower reaches of the field, and Heinrich is just crawling at 46 kilometers an hour down the front straight. He'll be hoping that he can get that thing back to the pits, but it's not going to be too long before the leaders are back on him again. This might cause some problems, David.
Yeah, and the tow trucks can go faster than 40 kilometers an hour as well. So at a certain point, you maybe ought to give it up. Here's John Schultz, right, his pit entry, looking for those yellow cones to get down to the speed limit there. A couple others have decided it is just too crazy, too chaotic, too much mayhem. They're getting out of there. I said the front wheels aren't pointing the same way, but now I'm not sure any of the 4 wheels on that car are pointing in the same direction, and really, you should stop and put that thing on the tow truck. That isn't safe, and that's an inevitability.
Nah, yeah, Heinrich really should have towed that. He's just put another driver's race at risk there, trying to get it back to the pits. The car was just too heavily damaged to really continue. It's difficult to move aside for traffic here at Okayama. It looks like the driver, he made contact with the green machine there of Mr. Theo Taylor, as there's a car off in the gravel at the left-hand hairpin. It was Cameron Cousins, and he's had a couple of technical issues on his way back onto the racetrack as well. So the race really starting to come apart for a few people here. But for the lead, have a look at this. Lee Partridge trying to draft up to the back of Cameron Dance, not going for the move just yet. It's just behind them. Defensive is Chris Noble. He's gotten back up into 3rd versus Alex McKellar, and Kirk Broadhurst has joined the party too.
If you've got 2 brain cells to rub against each other, you know Cam Dance is the championship leader. You know he clean swept last week. If you want a podium, you would do very well to ride along with him and copy his strategy. If you aim for something greater than a podium, well, you are going to have to fight him and fight him on his terms. You can definitely imagine anyone in the top 5 here may be seeing that Cam Dance is a pretty good meal ticket if you're going to follow his race, his pace, and pull away from the rest of the field. That's not what these guys are doing here. It's Jones and McKenzie back together again, and Jones says, having none of that in race 2, you're not going to follow me through the final corner this time. Jones going for the pit stop. I want to say early, but already about 12 or so cars have cleared their pit stops. Here's Lee Partridge trying to clear Cam Dance for the lead of the race. Side by side through turn 1, you've seen the outside can hold it. And here, this is Dance's party trick. Clean round the outside of 2 and 3 to give him the inside for that left-hander. But this is the over-under for Partridge in full effect.
Absolutely is, and a little bit of momentum down the back straight. They don't need to shift up into 4th down that short straight, and Partridge gets the lead back there from Cameron Dance after ever so briefly gaining it in the first couple of turns. So there he is now in the lead, and he'll probably be hoping that him and Cam can just trade places and draft with each other to try and maintain some kind of gap here over Noble, because he, McKellar, and Broadhurst really starting to catch them. This could be a 5-way, maybe even 6-way battle for the lead if Nathan Verney's got anything to say about it.
Really is starting to look like a 5-way battle for the lead. Noble was the fastest of anyone on that lap, so he caught first and second. He's right in their slipstream. And if you trust your JRT screen to tell you what is and isn't a battle pack, well, all the top 5 rolling with no intervals larger than 1 second between the 5 consecutive cars there. And this camera shot really tells you about it as they all follow in a line, and Dance is the one willing to be patient at the moment, but he can't be patient forever because Noble, McKellar, and Broadhurst are starting to catch him. Pit entry is on the right here at the top of the hill, but none of these drivers want to take it. We often mention, some of the cars from the middle pack, from deeper in the pack, taking their pit stop early can very, very quickly be traffic that the leaders catch early, which then might lead some of these guys into wanting to take that earlier pit stop. Whereas if we were racing a 3-minute long lap, it would be less of a consideration because it'd take them a lot longer to get that traffic.
Yeah, that's the magic of short tracks, or if you're a driver who's encountering traffic, the horrible thing about short tracks. Dennis Hancock there, just making his way around the track. He is the lead car that is pitted. He pitted on lap 1, and so he's leading the charge there from everyone as Leon Williams makes his way into the pits just ahead of him. The big puff of smoke from all of these cars on the upshift, and 35 seconds behind the leader there for Dennis Hancock, and it looks like a lane transit time is somewhere in the vicinity of 37 to 41 seconds on average. So let's see how much of a part he has to play later on. Here's Ryan Jones battling down 24th and 25th position with the likes of John Schultz and Paul Ward. Paul has not pitted yet. Ryan Jones and John Schultz have, and they're having, looks like, a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, second and third of the cars that have pitted is Jones and Ward. Right up front, it was getting exciting for 4th and 5th here. Alex McKellar, it's a little cleaner so far in race 2 than it was for him in race 1. And I'm sure that is on his mind just after a finish, a result, some points, something. But he is starting to lose touch of the top 3 just a little bit. And I tell you what, look at this traffic. It's your top 3 all in a line. Now slipstreaming off one car, going around another. And this is tough stuff for Chris Noble, who wants to stick with positions 1 and 2 that he can see right out the front of him. Kind of looks like Need for Speed trying to cut through some traffic or something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Making your way down the Tokyo Expressway in your Skyline or something. Jeremy Bush, oh no, that's Michael Greed who's gone for a spin at the final turn. He rejoins safely though, and oh, hold on. Maybe not so much, because another car had some issues just behind him there before we cut away to the replay. So what happened to Greed here? That is basic rear end contact there from the car behind. And who was that, I wonder, who went into the back of Michael Greed? Not too sure, but away goes Mr. Greed, and then another car just behind going for a bit of a spin there. It looks like it might be Mitch Dean, or yeah, one of the chicken up cars anyway.
Almost looked like a little bit of a textbook accordion there, though, with almost 3 cars creating a highway crash, one into another as they all slowed down for the final corner with some potentially slightly different braking zones. But this is your top 3. Lee Partridge in red and black leading. Cam Dance in his real world Formula V livery, mainly in black. And then that looks like an AlphaTauri tribute almost for Chris Noble, unless I've adjusted my glasses wrong. Or, not wearing them because I don't have any, even though I maybe should.
Yeah, indeed. Well, it looks to me like a bit of an AlphaTauri tribute there for Chris Noble. He has managed to stick here with Dance and Partridge. second and first respectively, and they've got a reasonable gap here over McKellar and Broadhurst, who are starting to battle themselves. Broadhurst getting up the inside of McKellar at the right-hand hairpin. Let's see how that works out between them. The leaders avoid the pits for one more time, and it looks to me like they might be trying to pit a little bit later on. But remember, this race is 30 minutes in length, and we're only a third of the way in, so anything can happen up to this point. Mitch Dean continuing to make up positions there on Nick Scarriev, as it looks like there's a move for the lead happening. Cameron Dance has gone by Lee Partridge and back into the race lead. And Partridge, it looks like, isn't going to fight back just yet. He knows how valuable the draft is. He knows that it's best to just stick here with Dance and make sure that they don't bring their other rivals in the top 5 here with the top 3.
A lot of traffic in front of them, though. If you had the forward view on the pit straight, you would have been able to see 4 or 5 cars. Oh, here's another problem for Scarriev in the Hornets livery. What are we going to see here on the VRS replay? I think it's going to be a case of float like a butterfly, spin like a bee.
Yeah, absolutely. The rear end just broke away from him, running wide through the first turns, which, as we've said in the past, is an easy thing to do in these Formula V cars. You really got to be careful going into a corner, particularly a high-speed one, because you put some weight on the fronts and the rear just swings around. Remember, these cars are basically mid-rear engined, as that's some traffic coming out of the pits there for our leaders. It's Paul Jackson who's just come out of the pit lane, and he lets them all go reasonably cleanly with a bit of space between them, as Sean Doyle going for a little bit of lawn mowing there on the inside of turn 3, but manages to rejoin the track safely. What that has done is, with Paul Jackson now splitting the top 3 and then 4th and 5th, it basically means that they're going to have a little bit of a draft and a chance to catch up to them, as there's some battling going on here in the opening sector between Aiden Schultz and Russ Green for 11th and 12th.
Yeah, Schultz, one of the drivers who started so deep in the field in 35th, hasn't made his pit stop yet, so that flatters him somewhat, but still 24 positions gained, battling in front of a lot of drivers who started in the mid-pack, in the late teens, in the mid-teens, and he's come from 35th on the grid to be battling these guys. Here goes one of the 111 cars for the pit lane. It is going to be Ira Felberg, and you can see the lane time there. But so much of it isn't just the pit lane transit time cone to cone. You can see how much of the pit lane entry there is that you can still attack at racing speed.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can stand to gain a lot of time if you nail the pit entry here at Okayama on the inside of the last corners. Of course, conversely, but also, oh dear, okay, bit of a spinner in the hairpin, and that almost ruined things for the leaders there. Who is that? Stafford Marsland, 29th at the moment. He has gone for his pit stop, so that's a bit of a shame there for Stafford. Fortunately, it looks like he's been able to recover there as the battles continue in the top 5, and then Dennis Hancock still the lead of the cars that have pitted. Where did Hancock start? In 4th, so I reckon he could certainly make himself proper
He's pulled 2 seconds on the leaders in the last 3 or so laps. I don't know if that was the traffic or the chopping and changing, or that time that they've just had there where they had to, pick and choose left or right to get around Stafford Marsland, who did the right thing, I think, just holding the car there, but it was still a very rough position to be in, and it would have cost these guys a bit of time.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bit more traffic for Kirk Broadhurst and Alex McKellar. Looks like they've switched places. McKellar now losing quite a bit to Broadhurst as Joy lets him go. So that's that settled for at least another few corners. They got the battle for 24th and 25th between Rick Berger and Ray Oliver just up in front of them. And not seeing many cars here going for the pits, but Taylor and Green for 10th and 11th on track at the moment. Theo and Russ, they haven't pitted yet, of course. They're going to try and leave it as late as possible, I think. And a little bit of a draft here for Russ Green, which obviously not driving the green car in this particular battle. He does have a green helmet, though, and up the inside of Theo Taylor he goes. Will Theo be able to fight this here into turns 2 and 3? Not as of yet.
But the oil brand stripes rhyme with green. That's one thing to think about. Also, this battle and this chopping and changing in the top 3, Noble did get past Partridge, and now that they're starting to really spread out in what was an inseparable top 3, the traffic has definitely played into that one. You'd have to think just Dance being more aggressive, cutting through, and Noble and Partridge not quite able to follow that. Half of the cars you can see in these camera shots aren't really in this battle. They are going to go a lap down to our leaders, but that's because they've cleared their pit stop already. Get that lead lap back when your top 3 pit. Here's that battle again. Green leading Taylor. This time it's Taylor's turn in 4th gear to get that slipstream that is so powerful once you have to shift up into that top gear in this car, but he's not so confident throwing it down the inside there. He's going to hold his ground in 3rd gear. He's going to hold the inside into the next segment of right-handers. Really could have served himself well being more aggressive down the inside at turn 1, but that is so much easier said than done. Cam Dance has had a problem. He's facing the wrong way. He's lost the lead. He's down into 7th, and what has happened there? We talked about all of the traffic. Has he made a mistake? Has he played it too aggressive?
No, it was Aiden Schultz going for a spin in front of him at the hairpin, and he just got collected by the former race leader, and around he goes. So that allows Chris Noble and Lee Partridge into the top 2 positions. Kirk Broadhurst and Alex McKellar now 3rd and 4th. Cameron Dance has stayed out on track for the time being. He's not going to go for his pit stop just yet, but he has fallen down the field now. He is in 8th position.
Yeah, from the lead to 9.5 seconds off the lead and in 8th place. Not good, and that could be even worse once you factor in Dennis Hancock, John Schultz, Ryan Jones have already cleared their pit stops and cleared them early. That could actually be outside of the top 10 for Dance with that time he's lost, depending on how the pit stops all shake out. Here's Dennis Hancock, still leading of the cars that have pitted, but what was 38 seconds, what was 36 seconds, now 35.5. He keeps clawing away at it, and we think that pit lane transit is something around 35, 36 seconds. Hancock absolutely in picture for a podium, if not even the win.
Yes, indeed. And there is Cameron Dance going for his pit stop. Can't wait to see what Dennis Hancock can do in the last half of this race. We keep our eyes out here on Mr. Hancock, riding on board with him as he makes his way out of the final turn. And he is definitely going to overtake Cameron Dance here, who is still just coming out of the pits now, just behind Dennis Hancock here. And Dance has got another 3 cars to navigate. It looks like John Schultz, Ryan Jones, and Paul Ward all there in front of him.
Yeah, super costly. Not just losing positions to the cars he could see, but losing positions in the strategy battle to cars he couldn't see that had already made their pit stop. This is for the overall lead, Partridge and Noble. But Skariev again, more problems in the Bumblebee. Noble right up with Lee Partridge. Partridge has gotten back in front of him in recent laps, but Noble still has the title of fastest lap of the race at a 1 minute 1.1. So that's in Noble's back pocket.
Yeah, it is indeed, and can't forget about Kirk Broadhurst as well. He set a 1:01.5 on the last lap versus a 1:01.8 for Partridge and a 1:02.2 for Noble. So keep an eye out for this driver here who took a podium at the second round at Alton Park. Certainly a nice varied amount of winners and top 3s in this series so far. It's certainly been fun to behold, but here we go for the lead. It looks like Noble in the draft of Partridge. He's going to back out of it a bit, but Partridge is going to go defensive, and Mr. Felberg, Aussie car founder, letting them go there on the inside of turn 1, and Felberg's just going to resume his speed there as Broadhurst comes up to him. Partridge still holding on to the lead, but for how long is the big question.
Those leaders will be wishing that they'd kept the Beetle headlights so that they could flash them like Herbie does, but no such luck through the traffic. And look at that. I mean, these 3 cars battling at the same time, having to clear some traffic, a lot going on. This is Schultz. Dance now ahead of Ryan Jones, slotting into the middle of this one. They are so close together. Late look to the inside, late move for Dance, right up on the curb, but perfectly executed. Slides it out wide. Now he's got to look eyes forward again at the traffic, and Jones follows him through as well.
Indeed, 2 positions lost there for John Schultz. In the midst of all of that, they got Matthew Joy up ahead of them, who's running in 33rd position at the moment, but he just lets them go nice and easy on the inside of the straight. So Cameron Dance now has some clear air ahead to Dennis Hancock, who he might just be able to overtake. And considering all of that, Cameron Dance might still be in for a top 5 position here if he can keep this up, this kind of pace, because remember, Hancock, lead of the cars that have already pitted, and might well be going for the win if Lee Partridge and Chris Noble take long in their stops. Speaking of stops, Kirk Broadhurst coming in.
Yeah, indeed he is. This is a great demonstration of what the pit lane entry is like. The speed limit starts there. You've got to race into the pit entry through one right-hander, downhill through another right-hander, through the Armco Canyon. Alex McKellar follows him into the pits as well. They've really got to attack that pit entry for every second that it's worth, seeing as how close we've seen these battles are, the likes of where Dance has rejoined right with Schultz and Jones and all those other battles. Speaking of, this is Dance and Jones still through the final corner, and Dance took that spot away, but Jones is going to ride along with him with 7 laps to go. The pace is within a couple tenths of each other. The slipstream will absolutely make up for it.
Kirk Broadhurst has made his way out of the pits there, just up ahead of them with a 16.9 second stop time. McKellar only 1 second ahead of Dennis Hancock. He came into the pits as well, and the traffic is still affecting the racing that these drivers are having at the moment. So Dennis Hancock, maybe not for P1, but certainly for a top 5 position. And Cameron Dance, if there's a mistake ahead of him, has certainly taken advantage of that one. Nathan Verney coming into the lane here, 6th place at the moment, but he's going to fall a bit down the order as a result of that. On board here with Ryan Jones, chasing down the championship leader, Cameron Dance, through the last couple of turns. More traffic. It's just absolute chaos out there if you're trying to navigate this racetrack. Certainly making for entertaining viewing, but I'm not too sure how the drivers are feeling about it.
It's non-stop pressure, non-stop nerves, and any short lack of attention could have catastrophic consequences. The traffic like this. Here they go, round the outside of one of the locked-on cars, then through the inside, and Jones follows through as well, or he can't quite, as the rejoin from Verney here is lost out too, but he's not going to let Jones take it easily. Washes out well wide of that one, and Jones is probably going to be able to chop back. What a great little scrap. Hancock, Dance, Jones, Verney, John Schultz right in the picture as well. And there's others like Mackenzie or Chris Noble yet to pit, who should be right around where these guys are. The early pit stops have split the field in 2. Now it all gets stuck back together again. And we're going to see that even when they're not together on track with the slipstream, the pace is still super close. And they are all with very similar, very equal lap times. Here goes Dance past Hancock, still got Broadhurst, McKellar in front of him.
Righto, so that I think puts Cam effective 6th at the moment. Our top 7 still have yet to pit. Passing by the start-finish line, Lee Partridge and Chris Noble is making way for them there, Matthew Joy. They've got, just behind them, Ray Oliver with Mackenzie and Harland, the next battle pack behind for 3rd and 4th on track at the moment. Very interesting battle coming into turns 2 and 3, Sean Doyle and Max Donnelly. Sean Doyle, the teammate there of Dennis Hancock, and just making his way past the Twitch streamer, as that's a problem there for Mitch Dean, and that front right is not looking good.
No, absolutely not. There was contact. I only saw the end of it for Mitch Dean, but again, I think it's that Is it that traffic?
Oof. Oh, not too sure there. I'm going to have to go back and check that myself. Dean was up to 5th, of course, having not taken his pit stop yet. Aiden Schultz, he was trying to make his way past. It was traffic coming into the first couple of turns, and Schultz just getting a slight run there on Dean, but Dean was trying to go to the right to make his way past Russ Green, who was also part of the traffic. So, I don't know, I think there's going to be some race control input on that one.
Yeah, don't envy that task with so much going on in these short, sharp, action-packed races. Here's Partridge leading Noble, and traffic immediately behind them. What's the gap? These guys to Kirk Broadhurst. Number, it's not reading up like it should for me, but soon it's not going to measure to Broadhurst. You're going to measure to McKellar. This could even be, for the lead of the race, is 33 seconds behind Lee Partridge, who's out in the overall lead, is Alex McKellar, who leads of the cars who have pitted. Now he's gotten past Kirk Broadhurst. So Partridge and Noble not quite managing the same speed as when they were racing with Cam Dance, I think.
Yeah, that might certainly come into play here in the final few minutes of the race, and we do have 3 minutes to go, as in comes Sean Mackenzie and Mikey Harland, that 3rd and 4th place on-track battle. And if these guys up at the front want to pit, they're going to have to do so soon, because rules are you have to come in before the start of the final lap. So would expect them in sooner rather than later. We'll keep an eye on Mackenzie and Harland. They're still stopped in the lane as the big battle pack makes their way past him. There's McKellar and Broadhurst coming into the foreground, and then Dance, and then Hancock, and they come out just behind them. So I wonder if that bodes anything for Lee Partridge and Chris Noble, who are making their way into the pit lane as we speak.
Yeah, Partridge attacking the lane. He wants this win, and he knows that everything around this pit stop has to be perfect. The pit in, the position in the box, the reaction time out, and not speeding on the lane, absolutely critical as well. Now here's Alex McKellar. He is in contention for the win here. If he gets around before Partridge gets out of the lane, he goes to the race lead, but it is going to be so close. My money's on McKellar by half a second.
Let's see then, up on the jacks, Lee Partridge and Chris Noble. McKellar just coming past the curb, and it looks like he might get it done, maybe, just about. Kirk Broadhurst decides he wanted to go for a move, but they're going to come out just ahead of them here. Chris Noble gets out just ahead, and Lee Partridge falling down behind Cameron Dance and under pressure from Dennis Hancock. So that's very varied there as Broadhurst and McKellar fight it out, duke it out through turns 3 and 4. Cameron Dance sees an opportunity here to gain an extra couple of positions. Next lap is going to be the final lap, but as it stands, it is Chris Noble in the effective race lead. Michael Greed, the last car yet to make a pit stop, and it looks like he's going for that now.
And the difference is a 16-second stop from Noble, a 21-second stop from Lee Partridge. That puts Noble to the lead and Partridge to 4th when they were absolutely glued together coming into the lane. Great stop from Noble, puts him to the lead. He takes the white flag, and he is going to be oh so hoping they all battle behind him and he can maintain this gap for one last tour of Okayama Short. Dance does get ahead of McKellar, two championship rivals, but it's all gone Dance's way so far this
Broadhurst!
round.
Oh, Broadhurst spins and Ryan Jones collects him through turn 3. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's all gone wrong for both of those drivers at the end. It was a fantastic drive from both of them. Ryan Jones, he was on for an excellent result, but Broadhurst was just right on the racing line when he came to a stop, and unfortunately for Broadhurst, he did that all on his own, but only 2 turns to go here for Chris Noble, and he's going to take a well-deserved victory here, David.
Yeah, exactly. Front row qualifying, paying some dividends. He's going to send a car a lap down on his way to the checkered flag. It's a long way down the pit straight. The timing line is all the way down here, but he knows where Barney is, waving that checkered flag for him. And it's a first Aussie Car Formula V win for Chris Noble. Dance and McKellar completing the podium. Here's another battle still kicking on. Doyle and Fellberg for 14th and 15th. If they have any shenanigans, it's Max Donnelly and Russ Green right behind them, and they're oh so close. Green looking for any way around Donnelly. Gonna have a dive in the final corner, is he? He's gonna show the nose at a minimum. That is, even in these cars, a tough sell of an overtaking opportunity. Can he outdrag him all the way down the straight to where the checkered flag is displayed? He runs out of speed before the timing line.
He does indeed. A very close finish between those two just coming through. The last couple of turns on the cool-down lap, Chris Noble, he's not going to go into the pit lane. He might attempt to do some burnouts here on the start-finish straight, which, as Cameron Dance demonstrated last week, it's very difficult to do in a Formula V. But going to cross the line one more time there in celebration is Chris Noble, and it's only his 2nd race start in OZICAR, so he has made his mark early.
Yeah, doing an extra parade lap to, yes, say thank you to all the fans around the track. Oh, he's always going to attempt a burnout, but the key word is attempt on that with the horsepower these cars have got and the way the differential is set up. But yeah, look at that. His first win in OZICAR Formula Vee Series in the feature race here at Okayama. 2nd clear of Cam Dance. What a fight back through the field. And McKellar maybe fading a little bit at the end there, but still surely a podium, not the worst result, especially in contrast with race 1. That's Lee Partridge, Dennis Hancock, John Schultz, Nathan Verney, Sean McKenzie, Mikey Harland, and Daniel Hederscheid, plus, let me check that again, 19 positions from no qualifying on this race, 29th on the grid. He does get into the top 10.
He does indeed. Ray Oliver's going to come home in 11th place and Michael Greed in 12th. Sean Doyle rounding out in lucky 13th. Ira Fellberg coming home in 14th position, with Max Donnelly making up 18 positions to finish in 15th place. Russ Green, meanwhile, finishes where he started. He battled with Theo Taylor for much of the race, and Taylor comes home behind him in the end. Paul Jackson in 18th, with Jackie Chalmers in 19th. Nick Skariev rounding out the top 20, unfortunately going for a couple of spins and losing 7 positions.
Then we have Vic Bent-Velsen, Mick Taylor, Kirk Broadhurst, first car off the lead lap. We saw how that happened, almost a self-inflicted spin. Ryan Jones going with him in that one, and some of our drivers who battled right up the front are only rewarded with 23rd and 24th. It's Jeremy Bush joining them on the lap down club. So easy to do around this super short Okayama layout. Over lap time sub 1 minute. Jeremy Bush, Stafford Marsland, Leon Williams, Paul Ward, Sean Carey and Matthew Joy 2 laps off. And then much deeper in the field goes Mitch Dean, Aiden Schultz, Cameron Cousins, Callum Heinrich, and Rick Berger.
Ultimately 5 laps down at the end of that, but now that the racing action is over, it looks like Cameron Dance is in here for an interview, David. The winner of race 1, but it didn't quite go his way in race 2.
Yeah, Cam, got to congratulate you on that race 1 and on clean sweeping the pole positions. We talked about you get 4 qualifying laps for race 1, but only the single hot lap for race 2. So what was your focus on qualifying there? And surely you've got to be afraid of starting at the back of the grid in a field this big.
I mean, it was a large grid, and I mean, it was just chaos with some of the lap traffic in some places. So yeah, it was just really, really difficult, but we made it work in the end and put it on pole in both races, so I can't complain at the end of the day.
You can celebrate your own performances, and you never want to take too much joy in misfortune for your competitors, but obviously race 1 championship wise was a big swing for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, based on what happened in race 1 to Alex and that, it was actually really, really big for the championship when I saw them in pit lane. So yeah, that's a nice haul of points to now have as a buffer between myself and everybody else. A little bit unfortunate I didn't win race 2, but that's what it is. I mean, second's still a pretty good result considering what happened. So yeah, I can't complain too much, and looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the final 2 rounds.
Be a bit greedy if the winning streak went on too long in a new championship, wouldn't it?
I mean, you can't complain when it keeps on going and going and going, but it's got to come to an end at some point at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. This championship's been really, really close and really, really fun as well with how close it's been for everybody having a chance. So we'll see what happens in the final 2 rounds. Lime Rock next week's going to be pretty chaos with the fact that it's a mega draft track and you're going to have at least 10 car trains. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, and I reckon that round's probably just going to be a matter of gaining points rather than trying to go for wins at this point.
Well, we really look forward to seeing you next week at Lime Rock Park. You take the championship lead for the first time since round 1. Who are you going to thank?
Yeah, just a small shout out to all the boys at TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport and our partners, TechSense Sensors, River Harnesses, Demon 2X, Fight CRC, you guys for the awesome broadcast, I for the awesome series, all the boys for the awesome racing, Major's Garage, as well as some 3D, and yeah, see what happens next week.
And Ferdinand Porsche for designing the Beetle. Yeah, sure. No, all right. Understandable. Thanks for joining us, Cam Dance, and making yourself available. Congratulations once again. Reese Gardner, what a race that was. I mean, we could do another broadcast tomorrow off of that replay, watching entirely different battles, and it'd still have the same sense of grandeur of action-packed battles, because we can only look one place at a time, and this grid, top to bottom, amazing racing, and there are stories we're not telling, for 20th place, where guys are having the races of their lives and having a ball out there.
Absolutely. I mean, it really shows the, just how intense the racing is throughout the field, that, despite everything that happened in those 2 races, we still ended up missing so much, and, that kills me. But at the same time, it really highlights how good this series is, and how, if you're racing in this series, you've always got someone to battle with. There's always going to be something interesting that happens out on the track in front of you. So yeah, if you're interested in racing in this series, make sure to sign up with OZICAR, because they do run a very tight ship over here, and Formula V still continuing for another 2 rounds, but we are going to Lime Rock Park next week. A fast and flowing layout, very simple, but the draft is going to be massive here.
We really, really look forward to that one next Wednesday night here on SimSpeed. If you're one of those people on the fence telling yourself, no, iRacing looks too expensive for me, look at the fun, the camaraderie, the competition, the challenge, the racecraft, and all of it that you can have with the base content. This Formula V and these tracks we've been going to, it's so much of what the real world Formula V is about. It should be racing without a huge budget, without expenditure, and that is what we are getting here in OZICAR Formula V. Some of Australia, New Zealand's best drivers are in a really exciting car at some really exciting tracks, and the championship lead has changed between 3 or 4 drivers so far already. Could there still be a sting in the tail for the final 2 rounds? You'll have to join us to find out tomorrow night, next week, and the week after for OZICAR Formula V. But you will have to join us tomorrow night as well for OZICAR Skip Barber here on SimSpeed TV. Make sure you follow us on all of our platforms, wherever you're watching, be it YouTube, be it Facebook, be it Twitch, be it on your grandma's phone. I don't know, but make sure you follow us for all of the action here on SimSpeed. It's been David Haynes, Reese Gardner with me, Jay Kennedy producing. What a race from Okayama.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything else, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?